Have you ever wondered why some brands just feel premium? You can't quite explain it, but you can pick up on this vibe unconsciously. With my 3 years in marketing and consulting, today I intend to give you a step by step, actionable process on how you can lift your own personal brand to premium level positioning and reap all of the benefits that are involved with doing that. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, how to do premium so they'll be on their knees begging to buy from you. Pause. First of all, we need to understand what premium really means, because we throw this word around a lot, but unless we know what it actually is defined as, it's going to be difficult to try and strive for it. Premium simply means there's a higher perceived value, a sense of exclusivity, and a higher level of desirability associated with what it is that you are offering compared to mainstream alternatives, other competitors in the space. So, now that we know what it means, let's get straight into it. This is a 5-step process that you can deploy in your own business today to elevate your brand to that premium level. The first pillar of any sort of strong premium positioning is storytelling. Why? Because without a story, pretty much everything else that you have is just flash. That's because humans are hardwired to connect via stories. If you've not got any sort of unique character or history behind your brand, that's not going to work out very well in your favor. A story conveys something called time on problem, which basically just means the amount of time that you have had dealing with a particular problem that you are solving, which is the thing that you sell. And that conveys experience and authority as a direct result. If you've had time dealing with this problem, naturally you're going to have a degree of knowledge and insight that you can sell, being of that high level of understanding, for way higher than anybody else, because you know it inside out. Okay, time on problem is the most important currency in business, full stop. A unique story also allows you to own a space in a market, basically. So it's the kind of thing that, let's say you get on YouTube and everybody is talking about how they made X amount of money or whatever using a certain business model, whatever. But if you are able to put a unique spin on that, so I always think of William Brown. He came on YouTube out of nowhere and made these videos talking about how he built up a e-learning info product company and sold it to private equity. That's a story that nobody had heard before. That has allowed him to basically own that space, that small sort of space based on that story on the internet. It's very, very powerful stuff. And also because stories add more than just history. Stories also communicate values that your prospects can become aligned with. So if you've got this kind of grueling story of working yourself from the ground up, really putting in the work, that sort of diligence and work ethic is going to resonate with people that are on that sort of same page as you, and they're going to want to send you money. They're going to want to be involved with your world and your ecosystem as a result, because they have something in common with you that they've learned via the stories. Okay, stories contain more than just plot. There's a lot more to them. So a great example of this is Vacheron Constantin, the Swiss watchmaker. They are the oldest watchmaker in uninterrupted operation. They've been at it since the 1750s. They have hundreds of years on a load of the other luxury watch brands like Rolex, for instance. They are able to frame themselves as the top dogs because they've got the highest time on problem. They've been at it the longest. They know how to make quality watch movements that other brands just can't compete with. Cartier is also a great example of this, considering they used to be renowned for supplying jewelry to European royalty. So if they've got that kind of background and they can serve royalty, then naturally when you go ahead and you go into some jewelers to buy some Cartier stuff, it's like, oh, well, that kind of makes me feel aligned with that royalty. Like, I'm getting access to monarch's literal jewelers. That's crazy, the power of storytelling. Rolls-Royce is another great example. When they first came out in 1904, I think it was Henry Royce that was just obsessed with making the best car in the world, the luxury car, the quietest car, something that the richest people could buy and feel like, yeah, this is the best car possible. There's nothing on the market that's better than this. Immediately they started positioning themselves like that, and they've been doing that for uninterrupted, basically, for well over a century. They still maintain that image. The second pillar of proper premium positioning is going to be the aesthetics. This is something that people underestimate massively, because visuals have the power to elicit strong reactions that anything else basically just can't do. So mise-en-scène is a concept in film. You want to really get good at this and get good at the idea of just show not tell. In films, there is a entire, like in the art of filmmaking, there is an entire department that are like costume designers and set designers dedicated to placing objects on a frame in a specific place, because that they know that that actually conveys a certain feeling, a certain vibe. It all contributes. Every pixel on a frame or every speck of light, if it's on a stage, matters, because it all works together to create a underlying feel. So you want to be considering what you wear, the clothes that you wear. You want to be thinking about the lighting that you've got going on. You want to think about the art styles that you use if you're using visuals in your video. These are all really, really overlooked things, and you should never underestimate the power of this. Because just think about when you look at like certain paintings or certain buildings, or if you look out the window one day, what you see evokes a certain reaction in you. Brand books are excellent for this. You can basically use this as a point of reference for your own aesthetic messaging. So all sorts of major businesses in the world use these. It's basically just like a scrapbook filled of images and like visual inspiration to kind of give them that point of reference for what is our brand's aesthetic? What do we want to include in our visuals, okay? Get on Pinterest. Seriously, Pinterest is overpowered for this. And just assemble something real quick. And you can use that as a point of reference for the kind of visuals that you want to embody, because everybody's aesthetics are going to be completely different, okay? You want to have that unique sense of visual understanding. A great example of unique aesthetics is my client, Harry, who works as a productivity coach. And he talks a lot about things like neuroscience, flow state, and all that kind of thing. Very, very interesting stuff. You should check him out. But what he was able to do, and the way that he was able to get an advantage over everybody else in his space, is by framing himself with these unique aesthetics. Like, a lot of the time he was using things like historical paintings and sculptures, historical art pieces, as well as kind of like cosmic surreal things as well. So I've got some examples here just from inside of his paid program, and it's the kind of thing that nobody else has been able to live up to. There have been people that have worked with my client Harry who literally have turned down working for like Rian Doris, who's like the big like productivity like guy, pretty much. People have turned down working with Rian Doris to work with Harry just because of like how premium he's able to frame his stuff with the aesthetics. It's crazy. Ralph Lauren is a great example of aesthetics. It's this East Coast nobility, this kind of old money feel, that they basically just own this aesthetic, and it works really well because it resonates with people who want to aspire to live in the kind of way with the kind of visuals around them. Quite a few luxury perfumes, fragrances are also really good at this. I always think about Christian Dior's Sauvage with the Johnny Depp one. Like, everybody knows this, but it's like it frames anybody that gets involved with Sauvage, which admittedly is an overrated fragrance and very cliche, but the visuals associated with it in their marketing campaign is like this rugged, like on, in the wasteland, this kind of bohemian rogue, like untamed wild spirit, as shown by the iconography in all of the commercials and visuals with Johnny Depp. Like, so naturally you see that strikes a chord with you after you've seen the visuals, and then it's like, oh, I want to kind of get involved with that, so I'll go ahead and buy some Dior Sauvage. The third pillar of real premium branding comes down to intentionality. Now, what do I mean by this? Because being intentional creates a layer of complexity and attention to detail that simply cannot be competed with. Being intentional with what you do and creating that feeling, because look, it's really this simple. People sometimes look at things and they think, wow, there's so much attention to detail. There was so much intention put into this thing. It's kind of like with when you're dealing with other human beings and somebody just seems like they've got a lot of depth to their character. It's kind of interesting. It makes you want to pursue them and learn more, that kind of thing. And a great way to think about being intentional is also just setting your sights on what feeling you want your audience to leave your content with. So do everything in service of that desired feeling. Maybe you want them to be amazed, enthralled. Maybe you want them to be inspired. Maybe you want them to be leaving feeling like they had a positive, like heartwarming experience. It's going to be completely dependent on what you do and what your space is. But everything that you do should be in service of creating that specific feeling. Again, it's this idea of actually just thinking things through. Think things through, have attention to detail. People will just pick up on it regardless. It is really that simple. And it's not just autistic people like me who pick up on this kind of thing. Everyone does, whether or not they're conscious of it, okay? If you see something that's been well thought out, like, even if it can be something like as specific as the color of my shirt, okay? I picked this specifically intentionally. Whether or not you're conscious of it, you see this color and the style of shirt as well, and that elicits a certain feeling inside of your brain that even if you're not consciously observing it, it's there and it's having the desired effect that I want it to have. A great example of this is Rolex, okay? In the Rolex commercials, every frame is like really carefully orchestrated, you can tell. They really highlight the detail. So I got a really good example here where they're just highlighting the detail involved on those watches. You can see just like the tiniest little bits, like the numerals and stuff on the dial, and the way that the hands are there, and you can see the detail on the chronograph. It's just really, really specific, and it shows that there was so much care and intention put not only into the creation of the frame, but also in the highlighting that attention to detail that's already there on the product. That feels premium. People want stuff that's been well thought through. They don't want some watch from like some sweatshop that's just been smashed together and it's just some random, boring, unremarkable piece. They want the detail and intention that's been put into the creation of a Rolex timepiece. Apple is another fantastic example of this. They use really, really specific visuals, so usually things like nature or space, just this idea of like being out there, being forward. It's this sense of progress and futuristic feel, and that's what Apple are trying to do. They just want to highlight the just cleanness of their products, the way that they're designed. That's all intentional. That's why they're minimal. That's why they have an iPhone against a white background, to highlight the specific just clean, like cleanliness of the design, how just smooth it is. That's all deliberate. It's all in service of this feeling. Wow, Apple is the future. Once you have a story, visual messaging, and you're being intentional with everything to serve a specific feel, to really create that seamlessness, the next step is doing it effortlessly. In the Renaissance era, there was this courtier called Baldassare Castiglione, and he wrote this book that was, I think it was just called The Book of the Courtier. In it, he talks about this concept called sprezzatura, and essentially it's just an Italian word to describe something called studied nonchalance. Okay, bro, nonchalance, everybody's going to start laughing like, bro thinks he's nonchalant. Oh man. But essentially what it means is just it's the art of making something that's maybe a bit difficult seem really easy and just like effortlessly cool. To have sprezzatura means that everything should feel seamless, like you aren't really trying. You roll up to a dinner with your friends and your outfit and everything is like, wow, like this guy's dressed so well. Like, how does he do it? You just kind of don't even think about it. You're just like, yeah, I just like got this stuff out of my wardrobe. It was the first thing I saw, and like, yeah. And everyone's like, whoa, he must have like a personal stylist or something. How does he look like that, right? But it was just effortlessly done. If you go and like sit in a Chinese restaurant and you just order your everybody's meal in like fluent Mandarin, and then everyone's like, what the hell? Like, when did you learn Chinese? It's that effortless, cool feel. That is what sprezzatura is. That is the kind of thing that you want to convey in your content. Like, you aren't really trying. Now, you can be trying, but you just want to carry yourself in a cool way that sort of makes it seem like you aren't. That is the art of having sprez. You can really then tap into this thing called cognitive ease, which is basically by making everything seem effortless, like it's seamless, it's going off without a hitch, no sort of obstructions. People are then able to associate this sort of feeling of relaxation when consuming your content. Like, they know what to expect. They know it's going to be this seamless experience. That then basically puts your audience's brains in a space where they're sort of relaxed and they can just sort of associate that positive feeling, those positive emotions with your content. it's really good. A great example of effortlessness is Porsche, specifically the campaigns that they do for the 911 car that's like the iconic Porsche car. Like, they just don't care. You can kind of see this in if you've ever watched like one of the Porsche commercials, or the way that they frame them with the tackling the visuals. You can see it just seems effortless. Like, they just put it there and it works, you know? There's no sort of loudness, nothing like that. It's just there, it's cool, it's a Porsche 911. It's the dopest car. Lamborghini's a great example as well, because the Lamborghini CEO, I remember he said this once. He was like, yeah, we don't make TV commercials because the people we're trying to sell our cars to don't sit down and watch TV, because they're just there. They're like, they have so much confidence. They're just able to continue to succeed and flourish as this desirable premium car brand, because they're like, yeah, we don't care. Like, well, it's a Lamborghini. Like, it speaks for itself. That kind of thing. That's the kind of attitude that you need to be able to cultivate. You know, none of this neediness, just kind of showing up, and it's like, yeah, it just works, okay? Kind of like being on a date, okay? If you go there and you're trying too hard, she's going to be like, man, like, something's up with this guy. Like, what's he doing? Okay, finally, when it comes to having that premium positioning, you need a good product, or more specifically, a product that you have put a lot of time into really dialing in and making the best it can be. If your branding is all pizzazz and flash and really like fancy, wow, this is a luxury brand, wow, it does not mean anything if your offer is trash. If what you sell is trash, everything is a complete waste of your time, because people will buy into this feeling of, wow, this is a premium offer, I need to buy this. They'll buy into it, they'll do it, and when they do, they'll be like, what the hell is this? Okay. Obsession of the craftsman and high standards are also what just like create a strong product functionally, and a strong product speaks for itself. It's the idea as well that kind of links into storytelling, this idea that somebody's so obsessed with making something the absolute best that you are willing to pay extra, you are willing to pay a premium for that thing because of the amount of effort, this perfectionism, doing everything like meticulously by hand, kind of like how Hermes, like, they have this team of skilled artisans and they make all of the bags by hand, and that's why they're in such short supply. Obsession with high standards. Great example of this is Lexus. At Lexus, they have this team of artisans, they're called Takumi, and basically they will go and inspect a Lexus model to like ridiculous lengths, like the tiniest details they will go through to make sure that these cars are in tip-top shape. So it doubles not only just as like really strong quality control, but it serves the brand. The Mont Blanc pen is a great example too. The idea that they're just obsessed with making this a really genuinely good product, and then they can sell it at premium, and they say, yeah, Mont Blanc is like the best pen in the world, because it genuinely is. It's genuinely a very well made pen, okay? It's meticulously detailed, and it works really well on a functional level. So again, you think, oh, Mont Blanc is the best pen in the world, you pick one up and you're like, well, yeah, this pen really does work, this pen really is good. If you picked one up and it didn't work, you'd be like, what the hell was that? I don't like this brand anymore. Patek Philippe as well is a great example. The idea that they have this in-house seal of approval whenever they're making new watch models, with standards that are so tight, they are higher than the COSC, which is like the Swiss watchmakers, like kind of quality assurance guild or something. Like, if you get a COSC seal, it's like it's a very good watch. Not just buying a watch, you're buying a watch that was ruthlessly checked and made sure that it was a genuinely good product, and it keeps time, and it's accurate, and it's really intricate, okay? That's why Patek can sell their stuff for way more, okay? That's why Patek can be premium. So, if you follow this 5-step process, you can take your brand, starting today, from whatever level you're at now to a premium level of positioning. If you stick to these 5 principles, I promise you. Thank you so much for staying till the end. I hope you found this useful. If you've got any questions about this, be sure to go ahead and reach out to me. You can use a link in the description if you want. And that's pretty much it. I'll see you in the next one.